I watched the entire Lord of the Rings saga in 24 hours. That's 6 movies, over 17 hours of runtime, and you may ask yourself, why did I do this? And the reason is, I've never done it before, and I kind of wanted a challenge. The entire day is going to be split into 2 videos, and this is part 1. Let's get started. It's 6:30 in the morning right now. My roommate isn't even awake, but we're gonna go ahead and get this marathon started. What I wanna do is start with the Hobbit Trilogy first. In my head, I'm thinking that that's gonna be the right move, and that way I can end with the Lord of the Rings trilogy later tonight. I'm hoping that that pays off. I had some breakfast before I made my way to the living room. This video is not sponsored by any of the apps you saw right there, literally none of them. The entire series is on HBO Max, so that will be our app of choice for the next 17 hours and 12 minutes. And that doesn't include any breaks. My roommate Brandon is just now waking up and is about to head to work. We'll catch up with him a little bit later. By the way, I made a rule that anytime I left the room for food or the bathroom, I had to pause the movie first. So yeah, the movie is going and Brandon's cat Aspen joins me about halfway through the movie, and he's gonna pretty much chill with me all the way through to the end of the first movie. Hey buddy. It's a little bit before 10 o'clock. The first Hobbit movie is done and in the books. Before we move on, I want to do just a short recap on each movie, and then once we complete the entire trilogy, I'll do a more in-depth review. An Unexpected Journey is the first movie in the Hobbit trilogy, and it's probably the best. Martin Freeman was chosen to play the main character, Bilbo Baggins. This was a great casting call. He plays the character extremely well, and he's joined by some very familiar faces from the Lord of the Rings universe. Ian McKellen reprised his role as Gandalf. Andy Serkis came back in to play Gollum. Gollum and Gandalf, of course, are 2 fan favorites from the original trilogy. But even though this trilogy was made an entire decade after the first trilogy, both of those actors do a great job of getting back into those characters. Both actors stay true to their character, true to the core of what makes their character unique and special. And honestly, it's great to see that those characters get the love and attention that they deserve, considering they play such a pivotal role in the book. Another great part about this movie is the music. The best song? The one with the dwarves. It's called The Song of the Lonely Mountain, and I literally could listen to this all day long. Far over the misty mountains cold, 2 dungeons deep and caverns old. Yeah, I could sing that all day long. Now let's talk about some of the bad stuff real quick. The thing that stands out to me is the way that CG is used in some of these action sequences. It makes the movie feel like a superhero movie. The best example of this is about halfway through, these massive stone giants are fighting each other, and the dwarves and Bilbo are just hanging on for dear life in this most impossible scenario. And that scene is immediately followed up by the cave goblin sequence. The dwarves are trying to fight their way out of the caves by doing the most ridiculous, insane stunts possible. And of course, none of it's real, it's all computer generated. But it's really just silly and comical and goofy. It feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. There's a ladder that falls onto a bridge that falls onto a guy who swings his sword and hits that person but misses that person, and they roll down and they fall and they hit that person. And unfortunately, this will become a trend throughout the rest of the trilogy. And speaking of the rest of the trilogy, let's go ahead and jump into the next movie. I was feeling a little bored after the first movie, so I texted my fiancée Sammy to see if she had anything going on that day. She didn't.
Can I eat my lunch now and watch a movie with you?
She made it to the house during the second movie. She brought some Taco Bell and I had a protein bar.
What's good?
There he is. Brandon returned from work around noon and was very focused on the ending of the movie.
Get him.
All right, movie number 2 is done. We've got some real quick thoughts before we move on to number 3. First off, I don't like this movie that much. There's several things that I don't like about this. I don't even know if I'm framing it right. There's several things that I think are wrong with this movie. One of the biggest things that is just not right No, that's
not right.
So I think that there are a lot of problems with this movie. One of the biggest problems is an entire sequence where the hobbits... No, they're not hobbits, they're dwarves.
One of the big things that Harrison does not like about this movie is that there's a scene, 20-minute long scene, of dwarves fighting in the...
Barrels. Down the river. It's awful.
It is awful for him.
And this is to build off what I said about the first movie, is the action sequences are just impossibly ridiculous. They literally use a shot of a GoPro 3 times. I counted 3 times. It could be more than that. A GoPro? Really?
GoPros are how you make real good cinema, you guys. It's the top line of camera to buy for... I don't even know the words.
I can't even take that seriously.
I don't even know the language for cinematography. If we're getting real, I think it drags on. There's too much dragon.
There is a dragon in this movie.
Oh, my eye. Okay,
See, I actually liked Smaug. I think he's one of the best parts of the movie.
I didn't think he wasn't great. I just was bored.
I think the design, the acting by Benedict Cumberbatch, there's some really funny behind-the-scenes photos. He's really evil, and you can feel that.
I think animals that talk or creatures that talk are way less scary than ones that don't talk. So whenever he was talking, I was like, you're too wordy. You're too wordy. You know, you're trying to be too scary.
Say
so
less.
It doesn't scare me. Say nothing.
Less is more.
Say nothing and then just start killing people. That scares me.
In this movie, a fan favorite character returns that is not actually in the Hobbit book at all. But for some reason, they brought him back in this movie. Orlando Bloom returns as Legolas.
He doesn't seem as cool as he was in
Not as
Lord of the
cool.
Rings.
He also feels more macho, which Legolas in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is very like... He's sort of like a quiet, confident character. And in this, he's like, I'm Legolas. I deserve Tauriel. I am the king's son. They put Legolas into this weird love triangle with Tauriel and Kili, which that's another problem. The relationship between, or not relationship, the romance between Tauriel and Kili is so forced. I hate it.
I wasn't rooting for them to be together.
You're not shipping Tauriel and Kili.
If you're not shipping or rooting for them to be together, then there might be an issue.
Are there any pros to this movie?
I think there's one pro.
You have one pro. Okay, what's the pro?
One pro.
And by pro, we mean something good.
Everyone knows what pros and cons are. I have one pro, and Ed Sheeran. I see fire. That's the pro.
Should we sing it? Home is the eye of the mountain.
I can't do that.
Gandalf? Okay.
Gandalf? Okay. Gandalf is okay in this movie.
Gandalf is okay. Another pro of mine is that Gandalf does some really cool stuff where he like uses some spells.
He uses some spells
He
like
does.
Dumbledore.
He does some magic. Anyway, we're going to move on to movie number 3. We'll wrap up the Hobbit Trilogy and then move on to the Lord of the Rings Trilogy. I think she's about to head out, but I'm staying right here.
I'll be back later for probably The King.
Return of the King?
Return of the King.
Return of the King.
Return of the King,
Ooh,
maybe.
Can't wait. Before we continue, be sure to do 3 things right now. First, like the video. Second, subscribe to the channel. Third, leave a comment down below and let me know how you think the video is going. Be sure to watch to the end of the video to figure out how you could win a special prize. Alright, let's jump back in. The boys joined me once again to watch the 3rd movie. I did have an energy drink to keep my focus up since I was starting to feel the effects of looking at a screen for almost 8 hours straight now, but I persevered and made it through. Started at 7 a.m. this morning and it's 4 o'clock now.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Third movie is done. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, Battle of the Five Armies. They really crammed a lot in there. There were a couple really cool scenes. One that I did not remember from the first time I watched it, where literally these undead people that had rings at one point of power came to life, and all these like incredible people from the better movies came back in and they battled. Elrond,
Galadriel,
the OGs.
They came back.
It was pretty sick. The forced love of the dwarf and the elf. It was just like, it didn't make sense. It was awkward the whole time. Also, just like a whole concept of like that entire movie where it feels like you're just in one entire battle scene.
Yeah.
For hours. It's just too much.
The Battle of 5 Hours is what it should be called.
Yeah, honestly.
There's very little practical effects, which kind of goes back to the difference between the original trilogy and this trilogy. Like the commitment to practical effects, even in the action sequences, it's like night and day difference.
Like we saw a scene where Bilbo's mouth didn't even move, and words were coming out.
We caught Bilbo in 4K actually
for a movie with so much like revenue and like so much budgeting.
Yeah,
they messed that part up.
We noticed a scene where Martin Freeman, the actor who plays Bilbo, dubbed a line while talking to Thorin, which is pretty common, where in post-production the actors will go back and they'll dub in certain lines that they missed or that they want added in. But we caught Martin Freeman saying a line and Bilbo's face looks like,
I look absurd. I'm not a warrior, I'm a hobbit. I look absurd. I'm not a warrior, I'm a hobbit. I look absurd. I'm not a warrior, I'm a hobbit.
Yeah.
and it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. It just kept feeling like they kept adding more things in. I was like, this is the last movie, let's just do it all. Everything that we could possibly think of, let's just throw it in here, and it doesn't have to make sense. But I feel like they made a lot of things connect and like start falling into place. Yeah. Like talking about the people, like the men that they fought with the Ring of Power. Like they're all about to come back. And like Legolas going to find Strider in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Like that is setting up. And of course, like Bilbo having the ring, and like literally the last scene is a very opening scene
of Fellowship
of the Ring, which is really cool. So I felt like they did a good job of like providing backstory to some of the characters that we like loved in the Fellowship of the Ring, and like flowing it together.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. I'm gonna go to the bathroom now. He is gonna grab some food, and we're gonna jump into the next trilogy in just a little bit. The Hobbit Trilogy isn't all bad, but it isn't great. It's not bad because you do have good actors, you have a decent story that has a lot of nods to the original trilogy, and it has a good soundtrack. But why isn't it great? I think the main problem is that the studio, which is Warner Brothers, decided to make the story into something that it's not. The Hobbit isn't about love triangles or action sequences that you'll see in the Avengers. The book is actually a really simple adventure story. Instead, the studio decided to add characters that weren't even a part of the original story. They also forced romance, they forced the love triangle, and many other flaws along the way that just make you question who was in charge. Warner Brothers originally chose Guillermo del Toro to be the director and to lead this project. They didn't choose Peter Jackson, who directed the original trilogy and won Oscars for his directing, screenplay, and writing. The studio decided to go with another director. So it kind of makes you wonder, why go with a different recipe? Why not go with the guy who had the recipe for success? And you could argue that maybe Warner Brothers wanted to do something different. They wanted to try maybe a different style, a different tone with the story, which you do sort of see a lot of Guillermo del Toro's influences in the first movie, in An Unexpected Journey, you see a lot of those design choices and style choices in that movie that inevitably carry over into the next two movies. What a lot of people don't know is that Del Toro was chosen to lead the project, but then he left. So then who do you get to fill the shoes? So Peter Jackson stepped in and had to fill those shoes already into the project. And I think that contributed to a lot of the production problems and style differences, tone differences that you see through the movie. It doesn't feel concise. It doesn't feel like it's Peter Jackson's project. It really feels like it's another director's story and vision. And that's exactly what we get. And that's why it feels incomplete. What should have happened from the beginning, Peter Jackson should have been the front man to lead this entire thing. So that's the first mistake. Second mistake, not keeping it concise. Third mistake, not keeping it grounded. There's a lot of big budget, over the top ridiculousness in the trilogy that doesn't allow the story to be grounded. So let's get to the ratings. An Unexpected Journey, I'm giving a 7 out of 10. Desolation of Smaug, 6.5. And Battle of the Five Armies, a solid 6. So it's now 4:42, and we are going to jump into the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's going to be good. Let's do it. I want to give away a special prize to one of you for watching, and there's only 3 things you have to do. First, like the video. Second, subscribe to the channel. Third, leave a comment on what your favorite part of this video was, and in the next video, I will tag one of the comments and you will be selected as the winner for the prize. Okay, that's it. Have a great day. Bye.